This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The special envoy of the President of the Republic of Uganda, Nawal Sobruskoviak-Ras, handed over to Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf a letter for the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, from his Ugandan counterpart, Yoweri Museveni. At least 30 people have been killed in Gaza in Israeli bombardments that targeted the besieged enclave since dawn. The European Commission, the European Union's main executive body, has presented a proposal to suspend and to trade-related provisions of the association agreement between the EU and the Israeli occupation in response to its war on Gaza. Hello and welcome on Radio Algeria International. I'm Mariam Barshi. Representing the President of the Republic, the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has received a special envoy of the President of the Republic of Uganda, Nawal Sobruskoviak-Ras. The meeting was an opportunity to discuss the brotherly bilateral relations of cooperation that have experienced growing dynamisms between the two countries. The special envoy handed over to Mr. Attaf a letter for the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, from his Ugandan counterpart, Yoweri Museveni. Algeria is taking part in the 69th General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, in Vienna, Austria, with a multi-sectoral delegation led by the President of the National Authority for Nuclear Safety and Security, Rashdi Menedi. Musad Sharfi has the details.
At the general debate session, Mr. Rashid Menadi, president of the ANSSN and head of the Algerian delegation, reaffirmed Algeria's support for the IAEA's efforts to expand developing countries' access to peaceful nuclear energy in health, agriculture, water resources and the environment. He highlighted Algeria's role in the IAEA Director General's Rays of Hope initiative by training African students and professionals in nuclear medicine, radiology and radiotherapy. At the scientific forum themed Atoms for Water, he reviewed Algeria's water security efforts, including 5 new seawater desalination plants under President Abdelmajid Tebboune's program. He welcomed cooperation with the IAEA and stressed Algeria's commitment to supporting African partners in nuclear sciences. Mr. Menadi also addressed the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, denouncing the genocidal war by the Zionist entity and urging the IAEA to support Palestine within its mandate while calling on member states to back the Arab group's draft resolution on technical cooperation. In this regard, Algeria organized on the sidelines of the 69th IAEA General Conference a meeting on French nuclear tests and explosions in southern Algeria and their impact on health and the environment, with the participation of experts and specialists. Speakers highlighted Algeria's continuous effort to mitigate the harmful effects through concrete measures and sustainable development initiatives under President Abdelmajid Tebboune's program. They stressed Algeria's commitment to future generations and urged France to assume its historical, moral and legal responsibility under international law and to hand over archives including radioactive waste burial maps. For the first time, a documentary was screened showing the current state of the sites and their harmful effects, with experts unanimously pointing to France's responsibility for treatment and decontamination.
Spanish writer and journalist Victoria Garcia Correra has stated that Morocco has committed crimes in Western Sahara that fall under the definition of genocide, recalling that in 2015 a Spanish magistrate clearly described the crimes perpetrated by the Moroccan military and police forces against the Sahrawi population and their determination to seize the territory of Western Sahara. In an article published on the platform Don't Forget Western Sahara, under the title The Sahrawi Genocide is not a metaphor, it is a legal reality established by a European court, the Spanish writer highlighted that in April 2015, a ruling by the Spanish National Court, a Spanish court with national jurisdiction, recognized that the Sahrawi people had been denouncing for decades Morocco has committed crimes that fall within the definition of genocide. According to Victoria Garcia Correra, the magistrate Pablo Ruz clearly described the facts, including systematic attacks against the Sahrawi civilian population by Moroccan military and police forces, bombing of Sahrawi civilians' camps, forced displacement of the civilian population, assassinations, arrest and disappearance of Sahrawis within the aim of totally or partially destroying this population group and seizing the territory of Western Sahara. For the Spanish journalist, the ruling, far from being a symbolic statement, was the legal recognition of a crime that remains unanswered and unredressed. Drawing a parallel with the ongoing genocide in Gaza, the Spanish writer argues that what unites the Sahrawi genocide and the Palestinian genocide is a common pattern: colonial occupation, dispossession of land, systematic violence against a population considered expendable, and political protection from powers that block justice. She stressed that the two occupiers, Morocco and the Zionist entity, obey the same logic: the annihilation of the colonized people in order to perpetuate the occupation of the territory, deploring the fact that both enjoy impunity thanks to their international alliances. She added that it is not a coincidence that Morocco and the Zionist entity have strengthened their military intelligence and diplomatic ties in recent years. Denouncing the inaction of the international community, Victoria Garza Carrera points out that in the Sahrawi case, as the Palestinian case, the biggest obstacle to justice has not been the lack of evidence, but international complicity. The Commission for the Revision of the Amendments of the African Parliament Union AIPU has held in Algiers a meeting aimed at updating the statutes of the APU and adapting them to the current challenges facing the continent. In a statement made on the sidelines of the meeting, the Secretary-General of the APU, Mr. Idirgado Boubacar, thanked the Algerian parliamentary authorities for their support, noting that since December 2023, work has been underway to revise the African Parliamentary Union's text to modernize them and strengthen its role, adding that amendments are being studied in a friendly atmosphere with contributions from delegations of at least 5 countries.
It is a genuine opportunity to thank the Algerian parliamentary authorities for all the arrangements made in order to make the delegations feel comfortable and to provide them with the appropriate conditions to accomplish this work. This work started in December 2023 when we were asked to review the text of the African Parliamentary Union with the aim of updating them and ensuring their consistency with the requirements of our time and making them an instrument to strengthen and activate the African Parliamentary Union. In this context, amendments to the basic texts were proposed, and these are the amendments we are currently studying. The work is proceeding in a very friendly atmosphere, and there is great understanding among everyone. Delegations from no fewer than 5 countries are participating, and these countries have submitted proposals and amendments, and everything is going well. Once again, we would like to express our thanks to the Algerian parliamentary authorities.
He emphasized that the proposed amendments cover the Union's composition, membership and working methods, aiming to uphold the African Parliamentary Union's founding principles and defend its causes more effectively. For his part, the Commission's President, Mr. Pierre Flambeau Niagap, said the meeting aimed to continue debates on amendment proposals before the presentation at the next APU conference, noting that African parliamentarians share the will to strengthen the Union. The Commission will submit its report to the Executive Committee ahead of the November conference in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In France, a major mobilization against the state budget called by several trade unions has kicked off today in multiple cities, threatening to paralyze the entire country. The trade unions have described today as a black day of strikes and protests aimed at putting pressure on the budget decisions of the newly appointed Prime Minister amid an ongoing political crisis. This is the second demonstration in just 8 days following the Let's Block Everything action on September 10th, which was launched via social media. Today's protest marks the first joint call to action by 8 trade unions since June 2023 and is expected to be massive. Authorities estimate that around 250 protests will take place across the country, with up to 900,000 people expected to take part. And in Palestine, 30 people have been killed in Gaza in Israeli bombardments that targeted the enclave since dawn. 20 people were killed and admitted to El-Shifa Hospital, 2 to Ahli Arab Baptist Hospital, 1 to Al-Quds Hospital, 4 to Al-Awda Hospital and 1 to Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. Meanwhile, 4 deaths, including a child, died due to famine and malnutrition in the past 24 hours. This brings the total number of deaths due to famine and malnutrition to 435, including 147 children. Since the IPC's announcement, 157 deaths have been recorded, including 32 children. It is noteworthy that cases of malnutrition and famine are arriving at hospitals in Gaza at any moment. 900,000 children in Gaza are suffering from hunger, 70,000 of whom have entered a state of malnutrition. It is noteworthy that the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, had warned that malnutrition among children under the age of 5 had doubled between March and June as a result of the Israeli blockade on the Gaza Strip. The European Union Commission, or the European Commission, the European Union's main executive body, has presented a much-anticipated and delayed proposal to suspend certain trade-related provisions of the association agreement between the EU and the Israeli occupation in response to its war on Gaza. The sanctions, however, do not currently have enough support among the EU's 27 member countries to pass. The proposals announced on Wednesday also include suggested sanctions on extremist Israeli ministers and violent settlers, as well as on Hamas. 16 countries, including Turkey, Spain, Brazil and Bangladesh, has warned against unlawful or violent action targeting the global summit flotilla as it sails towards Gaza. They added that the Global Summit Flotilla has informed about its objective of delivering humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip and raising awareness about the urgent humanitarian needs of the Palestinian people in the need to stop the war in Gaza. They also warned that any violation of international law and human rights of the participants in the flotilla, including attacks against the vessels in international waters or illegal detention, will lead to accountability. The flotilla comprises more than 40 boats carrying aid such as medical supplies and baby formula, as well as over 300 participants, including parliamentarians from France, Brazil, Spain, Argentina, Algeria, Italy and Germany. 12 Maghreb ships set sail from Tunisia as part of the Global Summit Flotilla as a historic mobilization to lift the blockade on Gaza. A Mediterranean crossing is underway in the name of popular solidarity, as Shabikar reports.
After a delay caused by bad weather, the flotilla docked in Tunisia on September 7th, making the country the logistical hub for the departure of its Maghreb and global components. It was only during the night of September 15 to 16 that some 20 boats, mostly European vessels, including the family, the flotilla's coordinator, left Tunisian territorial waters. Algerian activists taking part in the Sumut flotilla, Zaki Sharifi, said the participation of Algerian activists in the Sumut flotilla comes to break the siege on Gaza and raise global awareness on the seriousness of the genocide that Palestinians are going through.
As Algerian activists, we could not remain silent on this horrific genocide and starvation that is imposed on our brothers and sisters in Gaza. That is why we have coordinated and participated previously in the Sumut convoy and preparing today, and really honored to take part of the Global Sumut Flotilla, which is a peaceful coalition of many movements from 44 countries. We are now in the final stages of preparation and training to ensure the success of this great mission. We will inshallah sail to Gaza with clear goals, which are breaking the siege, the illegal siege on Gaza, delivering humanitarian or urgent humanitarian aid, and raise a global awareness and pressure that can really make a difference. Our boats will not only carry humanitarian aid and medication, but a strong message to the people of Gaza and Palestine, saying that you are not alone. And the free people of this world would always be in your side.
The Sumut flotilla is expected to arrive on Gaza in 3 days from now if no attack, incident or bad weather affects its smooth navigation.
The UN Security Council voted today on a draft resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and unimpeded humanitarian access to the besieged and devastated enclave. And as the displacement crisis intensifies in Gaza, nearly 1 million people in the southern strip are facing worsening conditions with basic shelter needs unmet. Palestinian journalist Samah Qadih stressed that the situation of the southern part of the Gaza Strip is tragic, as is the displacement operations from the north pursues.
لا تزال عمليات النزوح من شمال قطاع غزة إلى جنوب.
Displacement operations from the north of the Gaza Strip to the south continue, and citizens arriving in Al-Mawasi, Khan Yunis, and the central areas of Deir al-Balah, Nusayrat, and Al-Maghazi are in a tragic situation. They are concentrated in the central area. There is no free space to set up a single tent there. How can 1 million people reach these areas from Gaza City? We are approaching winter, and there are no tents or space for citizens, children, the elderly, and women. They travel on foot to these places.
The media director of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees and in Gaza, Ines Hamdan, for her part, highlighted that basic shelter needs are not being met as nearly 1 million people are deprived of necessary support.
The humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip has become beyond description, to the point that it is difficult to even call it catastrophic. A famine has been officially declared in Gaza City, where families are facing increasingly painful choices. Basic shelter needs are not being met, and nearly 1 million people are deprived of necessary support in this area. Humanitarian organizations, for their part, continue to face several obstacles. UNRWA, for example, has not received authorization to deliver aid since March 2nd.
Several international organizations warn that almost 1 million more people are now on the precipice of an even deadlier period in Gaza's history if action or if no action is taken. That's it for today's news bulletin. Stay tuned on Radio Algeria International.
Hello and welcome to our weekly program Influential Figures.